that's the threat environment for the Russians. Then the question is, what are their goals? Now, a lot of people think that the Russians are bent and have been bent since February 22nd, it's February 24th, 2022, in conquering all of Ukraine and in absorbing it into a greater Russia. The Russians have never been interested in that, and they're not going to try to do that. What the Russians are interested in doing is capturing a substantial portion of Ukraine and also making Ukraine a dysfunctional rump state. They have already formally annexed 4 oblasts plus the Crimea, and they have made it clear they have no intention of giving that territory up. I might add here that they don't control all 4 of those oblasts completely at this point in time. But those 4 oblasts plus Crimea make up 23% of Ukraine's territory. I also believe that they will take the 4 oblasts that are immediately to the west of those 4 oblasts, and this includes Odessa and Kharkiv. And once they do that, they will control 46% of Ukrainian territory. Dmitry Trenin, who is a well-known and well-plugged-in Russian strategist, argues that they will take those 8 oblasts plus Crimea, as I described it, but they will also take additional territory in the north of Ukraine that runs basically up to the part of Kiev that is on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River. Now, what will guide Russia's thinking in the conquest of this territory? First of all, there's the Donbass problem. The Russians have to make sure that they basically take and control all of the areas that have large numbers of ethnic Russians and Russian speakers. Because if they don't, they'll have the Donbass problem all over again. And you remember the Donbass problem from roughly 2014 to 2022, where you effectively had a civil war in that region between ethnic Ukrainians on one side and ethnic Russians and Russian speakers on the other. They don't want that to happen again. And the only way to prevent that from happening is to take all of the areas where you have large numbers of ethnic Russians and Russian speakers. And that's why I think for sure they'll take those other 4 oblasts to the west of the 4 they've already taken. That's the Donbass problem. Then there's the porcupine problem. The porcupine problem is they don't want to conquer territory that has lots of ethnic Ukrainians, because as you all know, the ethnic Ukrainians hate them and they will fight like wild dogs to resist the Russians, even if the Russian military wins on the battlefield. So they will stay away from the territories in large part that are west of the Dnieper River. Then they have to make sure that they take enough Ukrainian territory that they turn Ukraine into a genuine dysfunctional rump state. For example, it makes eminently good sense, so lots of Russians say, to take Odessa, because if they control Odessa in addition to all of what they now control, they basically control Ukraine's Black Sea coastline, and that will enable them to strangle the Ukrainian economy whenever they see fit. So my argument is they're going to take a lot more territory than they already have taken.